Morning, everybody. Coffee. Need this for today. Blackoutcoffee.com/GNG. We're having an Easter sale. 20% off with code EasterEgg20. Get you some through the 17th of April. Jumping right into it early this morning, like 5 a.m. I think. The White House came out with this press release. I'm going to read it to you real quick. I'll put it on the screen as I read it. Gives you some insight into what is coming today. And like I said, once the time is announced, which it still isn't announced, they're keeping this thing like super under the wraps, I'll go live. But this is the fact sheet from the White House that they put out this morning. It says, fact sheet, the Biden administration cracks down on ghost guns, ensures that ATF has the leadership it needs to enforce our gun laws. It says, today, President Biden and Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco will deliver remarks in the Rose Garden to announce additional steps the administration is taking to combat gun crime, ensuring that ATF has the leadership it needs to enforce our common sense gun laws and fight gun crime. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives is our top federal law enforcement agency responsible for enforcing our common sense gun laws. Today, the President is nominating Steve Dettelbach to serve as Director of ATF. Dettelbach is a highly respected former U.S. attorney and career prosecutor who spent over 2 decades as a prosecutor at the Department of Justice. He has received bipartisan praise and support from law enforcement for his work. The rest of it's like blowing smoke and pumping his tires, but know that he is very anti-gun. He's for universal background checks, the assault weapon ban, red flags, all kinds of stuff like that. The made-up boyfriend loophole, he wants to get rid of that stuff. He's no good. No good. So we need to resist him, and that will start in earnest today. I did a video. It's right there if you want to watch more about Dettelbach and learn more about him, but I'll continue. It says, cracking down on ghost guns, the weapon of choice for many violent crimes. And these numbers are inflated. They're not as bad as they say, and they just got caught doing that. Today, the President and Deputy Attorney General will also announce that the U.S. Department of Justice has issued a final rule to rein in the proliferation of ghost guns, unserialized, privately made firearms that law enforcement are increasingly recovering at crime scenes in cities across the country. Last year alone, there were approximately 20,000 suspected ghost guns reported to the ATF as having been recovered by law enforcement in criminal investigations, a tenfold increase from 2016. Since the beginning of time, criminals have been scratching serial numbers off guns. Well, that is a felony in and of itself, but they're considering those ghost guns now because it adds to their stats. Ghost guns aren't a problem. Criminals are a problem. This final rule bans the business of manufacturing the most accessible ghost guns, such as unserialized buy, build, shoot kits that individuals can buy online or at a store without a background check and can readily assemble into working firearms in as little as 30 minutes with equipment they have at home. This rule clarifies that these kits qualify as firearms under the Gun Control Act and that commercial manufacturers of such kits must therefore become licensed and include serial numbers on the kit's frames or receivers, and commercial sellers of these kits must become federally licensed and run background checks prior to a sale, just like they have to do with other commercially made firearms. Except these aren't firearms, they're just a bucket of parts. That's just like requiring people who buy Mr. Potato Head to have to be a chef first, because building a Mr. Potato Head makes a full potato, just like Joe Biden. The final rule will also help turn some ghost guns already in circulation into serialized firearms. Through this rule, the Justice Department is requiring federally licensed dealers and gunsmiths taking any unserialized firearm into inventory to serialize that weapon. For example, if an individual builds a firearm at home and then sells it to a pawnbroker or another federally licensed dealer, the dealer must put a serial number on the weapon before selling it to a customer. This requirement will apply regardless of how the firearm was made, meaning it includes ghost guns made from individual parts, kits, or by 3D printers. This rule builds on the Biden administration's prior executive action to rein in the proliferation of ghost guns. In February of 2022, the U.S. Department of Justice launched a National Ghost Gun Enforcement Initiative, which is training a national cadre of prosecutors and disseminating investigation and prosecution tools to help bring cases against those who use ghost guns to commit crimes. As President Biden said during the event at the New York Police Department headquarters, if you use a ghost gun to commit a crime, not only are state and local prosecutors going to come after you, but expect federal charges and federal prosecution as well. Additional executive actions to reduce gun violence. Today's final rule includes 2 additional actions to make our communities safe. First, the final rule ensures that firearms with split receivers are subject to regulations requiring serial numbers and background checks when purchased from a licensed dealer, manufacturer, or importer. Decades ago, ATF issued a regulation defining the frame or receiver of a firearm as the part that is regulated by the Gun Control Act, meaning that it is the part that triggers federal serialization, background check, and other requirements. At that time, many firearms in the United States were single-framed firearms like revolvers that housed key components in a single structure. However, we have seen the increasing popularity of firearms using split or multi-part receivers that house key components in multiple structures. Some courts have recently interpreted decades-old regulatory text in a way that, if broadly applied, could mean that as many as 90% of the firearms in the United States today would not have a frame or receiver subject to federal regulation. The final rule updates the regulatory definitions of frame and receiver to ensure that firearms using split or multi-part receivers continue to be covered by our common sense gun laws. Second, the final rule requires federally licensed firearms dealers to retain key records until they shut down their business or licensed activity. So now, FFLs must keep their records forever until they go out of business. And at that time, these dealers must transfer the records to ATF, just as they are currently required to do at the end of licensed activity. Previously, these dealers were permitted to destroy records after 20 years, making it harder for us to make a registry. Making it harder for law enforcement to trace firearms found at crime scenes. According to ATF's National Tracing Center, on average, more than 1,300 firearms a year are untraceable because of the federally licensed firearms dealers destroyed the relevant records that were more than 20 years old. And then implementing the President's Comprehensive Gun Crime Reduction Strategy. This final rule is part of the President's Comprehensive Gun Crime Reduction Strategy. President Biden made more progress on executive actions to reduce gun violence than any other president during their first year in office. That means he's not a president, he's a fucking dictator. You can read more about the administration's whole-of-government approach to reduce gun crime here. President Biden's fiscal year 2023 budget calls on Congress to deliver the funding needed to implement the President's comprehensive strategy to reduce gun crime and to make our communities safer. These additional resources will fund accountable policing, including by putting more police officers on the beat and making essential investments in crime prevention and community violence intervention. Congress needs to do its job by passing this budget and other essential legislation to reduce gun crime, including legislation to require background checks for all gun sales, already does. Ensure that no terrorist can buy a weapon in the United States, that's to put people on secret lists, and the no-fly, no-buy list. Ban the sale and possession of unserialized firearms, so today's not enough. Now they want to ban whole-built guns. They also want to ban assault weapons and ban high-capacity magazines. Also, repeal gun manufacturers' protection from liability. Guys and gals, I don't know how to say this any clearer than I'm about to put this. This country is a country of laws. The only body that is given the constitutional power to make law is the Congress. Not the asshole in the White House, not the douchebags in the DOJ, and not the little sea bags in the ATF. Sorry, if you can't handle the language, that probably means you're not man enough or woman enough to deal with what's going on in this country. What he's doing is no more than a fiat by a dictator. And I will have this little party, the Grand Poobah party in the Rose Garden, when it goes live, as long as we're given a time, so I don't have to, hopefully I'm home if we're not given a time. But I'm going to try to do everything I can to have it live today so we can watch this idiot spew his stupidity. Country swayed a long way for a long time. Till we see each other again, be safe, stay vigilant, and carry a gun to keep you, your friends, your family, your community safe. Because that is what the Second Amendment is for. It's not for some executive to give us a fiat. It's not for a group of people in suits to tell us what they think it means. It is what it is. It means what it means. And our rights are not to be infringed by a dictator. Take care.